Awesome. Oh, there we go. Fantastic. Hi, Kyra. So good to see you. It's been a little while since we chatted. How are
Mhm.
you?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. Doing really good.
Oh, amazing. Do you know, when we spoke last, you shared your story about your accident and the surgery and the aftermath, but also a little bit about what happened before your surgery, and it just blew my mind. It just blew me away, and just how you were speaking about the uplifting of the veil, so to speak, and then your brother coming in and spirit team, and I just would love you to share that experience if you could with us today.
Absolutely. It's been 2.5 years now, so it's been a really, really big 2.5 years. But to go back to the start, it was January 2 years ago, so January 2023. It was just an ordinary day. But 6 months before this, I lost my big brother. He was killed on a farm accident with my dad and brothers. And so 6 months after he died, I was feeling really connected to him in the stars. And one night after I put the kids to bed, I said to Crystal, I just really need to talk to Ryan, and I'm going to make us a cup of tea and we're going to sit outside under the stars. And that was okay. The minute that we sat down outside, the energy began to change. And I could feel a real shift in the energy around me. And then the next thing I know, the top of my head felt like it was open with a can opener. It flipped back, and I could see 5 stars in the sky connect with 5 points in my brain. And boom, I want to turn around and say to Crystal, something really strange is happening. And I was standing beside us both. So I had left my body and I was watching her and I sit in front of me drinking our tea. And
Incredible.
then it was incredible. And then the energy shifted again, and the energy just took on this golden glow. And instantly, I knew my soul was at home. Instantly, there was just complete love, complete acceptance, complete knowing that I was held safe and that my soul was home. And in that second, my big brother stepped out of the space in front of me, and he was exactly as I know him. He was wearing his denim jeans, his white shirt, and his denim jacket. And he had an angel on either side of him, and they just were these figures that just glistened this golden energy. And it was just so beautiful. It was so beautiful. And he said to me, well, Katie, as he always called me Katie, well, Katie, he says, I'm here to awaken you to the truth of who you are and who humanity are. And he says, you're a healer, and you volunteered to be a healer in this lifetime to help humanity awaken. He says, but in order for you to do that tonight, we're going to finish your healing. And he says, will you travel with me tonight? And I said, let's go. Let's go. And we stepped into space and time. And in that minute, we went through my timeline of this lifetime. So in this lifetime, I had a really, really huge disconnect from life when I was growing up as a child. And I knew there was so much pain and there was so much violence and there was so many things that I could see in the world, even as a kid, that I knew it wasn't how it was supposed to be. And so I remember growing up, finding it so difficult to just live, to just get through the normal day and the normal events that everybody else seemed to be able to understand and deal with and still live with. But for me, it was just like it was taking everything from me just to survive. And so in that minute, Ryan and I, we stepped into my bedroom, and I was about 7, and I was hiding in the wardrobe, and I was crying, and I was full of fear and doubt and shame and grief and loss and anger. And it was this wee girl, and she was sitting there and she was completely black. She had such heavy, dense energy attached to her. She was black. And I lifted her out of that wardrobe and I held her. And the more I held her, the more her form began to change. And she started to look up at me. And the more I loved her and I loved her and I loved her and I hugged her and I held her and I gave her in that minute everything that she had needed, she began to change. And I could see this black energy begin to dissipate from her. And underneath the black energy, she began to turn golden. And when that wee girl was healed in that instant, she turned golden and she looked up at me with such love. And I placed her inside my heart. And then
Beautiful.
to the next event, and that was me sitting under a bridge. And I was just sitting under the bridge, just thinking of how am I going to get out of this world? How am I going to end this life? This pain is so much. And again, I lifted her and I healed her and I put her inside my heart. And then we went to a car and I was sitting in the back seat of the car and I kept looking at the door handle and we were driving up the motorway. And I was saying, if I just open the door handle and fall out, it's all over. And if I just do this, it's over. And I don't have to sit in this pain. But this was my life. There was so much pain. And I healed her and I put her inside my heart. And then we were on top of the bridge and I was saying, Kyra, just jump in the water, just end it. And I healed her and I put her inside. So I did this for about 10 different events. And I just golden. And when she turned golden, she was healed in that moment. And I put her into my heart. And I just liken it to building myself that night up from the inside out. I had all of these layers of me, all of these younger versions of me that were in so much pain. But to have her healed and her golden, and she went into my heart where she needed to be. And it was like, you know, that image if you get of the Russian doll where all the little ones go in and it makes up this big one. And that's what it was like that night.
God, that's so powerful.
It's incredible. And so when that was finished, we stepped back out into the garden and I stepped back into my body. And Ryan said to me, now, Kyra, it's time for you to see the truth. And he walked around behind me and I'll never forget it, for I can still see it. And his big hand came down over my face like this. And he lifted this black veil off my eyes. Boom. Instant spiritual awakening. Everything came alive. I knew the secrets to everything. Everything that I had brought here on a soul level had been activated. The stars began to communicate with me. The trees around me came a step closer. The grass became alive. Everything was just in its absolute glory. Everything began to communicate with me. Everything just became one. And I became one with everything. And that was like, it was just an instant knowing of who I was, who humanity are, on a soul level, why we came here, what we're to do, this awakening that we're experiencing at the minute, and how we're all returning to know that we came here with a much, much, much bigger version of understanding and purpose than what we currently believe.
Oh, I love it. Gosh, I love that so much. I love how, you and your brother had that relationship. He was always going to be the one to come in and show you the bigger picture. Like, it's just so cool, because sometimes you need a spirit guide that you trust, someone, in spirit that you trust. And like, obviously, you had such a good relationship.
But it was so funny to be Ryan. Like, it was so funny because, Ryan in this lifetime was a wild child. That he was a truck driver and he was so proud of me because I'd went to Australia. He was the proudest. He was the eldest of the 8 of us. And when I came here and I started a heavy machine operating, and I would send him videos and pictures of me driving the biggest of dump trucks and the biggest of front end loaders. And he was so proud that little small, fine built Kyra was able to drive these big machines. And he just loved to hear what I was doing here, and he was so proud of me. But he was a wild boy. He was a wild child,
Yeah. Well, how tall are you? You say you're little.
I'm only 5'5" or something like. But I was getting into these huge big dump trucks, and these men around me were going like, "Kyra, you can't drive this. How can you? You're such a wee woman. How can you do this?" And I'm like, I can drive anything. The bigger, the better,
Yeah. You came here for the challenge, hey, in every which way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. So what's the age difference between you and your brother?
He died at 44, so that was 3 years ago, and I just turned 40, so it must be 7 years between us.
Oh, there's quite a difference. So he was like big brother, always big
big brother, and then I had an elder sister and 2 big brothers in between us, so there was 3 in between him and I.
So it was really good timing for him to come in when he did, because like a year later, then you find yourself having in an accident after jumping on a trampoline. And
yeah, so he awakened me that night, and So I came back into my awareness of where I was, and I just turned around to Crystal and she says, "Are you all right? You've been talking to yourself." But this all happened in an instant. Um, and I says, "Babe, Ryan just awakened me." And she says, "Huh?" And I says, "Baby, Ryan was just here and he awakened me to the truth of who we are." And I started to tell her what had happened. And she was just like, she didn't know what to think. We moved outside into the garden. We're just having a normal night. And in that instant, our entire lives changed. So I had, in that instant, I had automatic connection to my spirit team, to my light council, and to the Palladian emissaries of light. So they would work with me then for every day, every night for the next 3 months. I worked with them on a daily occurrence. So, like for instance, the next night I went to bed and I was awakened then every night for the next 3 months. They awakened me at 3:40 and they would say, "Come outside, it's time to meditate." And the minute I would go outside and sit down, boom, I just went traveling. And I went traveling to all of the locations and all of the time zones and all of the different dimensions where my soul came from. And I walked through towns with my soul family, in which all of the DNA that was in me and all of the knowledge and all of the healing abilities, everything were just being activated every night and every day. So it was just, they were just starting to build on that event occurring, and it just started to build and build and build. And then like it was just so strange, but it was so incredibly beautiful that I never doubted it. I never questioned it. And then they would tell me what was the next stage. So they kept telling me I was a healer and I was a healer. And I kept saying, "I don't really understand what that means. Show me what that means." And so I sat and I was beginning a meditation at home. And they said again, "You are a healer." And I said, "I don't know what it means. Show me." And they said, "Okay." They said, "Open your eyes." And I opened my eyes and they said, "Hold out your palms." And I held out my palms like this. And they said, "Look, can you see?" And there was this huge golden flame coming out of my hands. They said, "You carry this energy in you. And this is the energy that you will take to take people into higher frequencies when you work with them to allow their healing to occur." And this just kept going. It just kept going, and more messages kept coming, and more skills and abilities were activated. And then one day they said breath work, and I didn't know anything about breath work. And they says, "You're going to do breath work. We need you to learn breath work." And I said, "Okay, show me where." The next day, I opened up my phone, and in my phone was a lady who does breath work on the Gold Coast. I didn't know her before, didn't know anything about it. I rang her up and I says, "I need to come and see you." And she says, "Okay." So she booked me in for a rebirthing breath work for me. So I went and I had a huge rebirthing, my first experience rebirthing. It was enormous. I literally rebirthed myself in that session. And after the session, I started to tell her that I was sent here for her to teach me. And she says, "No, I don't teach people." And I says, "Yeah, I think I've been sent here for you to teach me." And she says, "Oh, it's interesting. Why do you say that?" And I says, "My spirit team told me, and they're just telling me now that you need to speak to your team and that they will tell you what's happening." And she said, "Kyra, this is all very strange." And I'm like, "Yes, I understand, but this is how I'm going to go with it. This is how it's going to be." She said, "Okay." And she left the room and she came back 5, 10 minutes later and she says, "You're right." And I says, "Yeah, I know." And she says, "People have asked me to teach you everything that I know in rebirthing breathwork." She says, "When you start?" I said, "Let's go." And I worked with her then. And so we did a full week because it was me and it was intensive. So we did a full week and she taught me everything that she knew in that week. And so I didn't read into it other than this was the next step in my journey and this is what I was supposed to do. And so I started doing rebirthing breath work for clients that came to me. And when people started to hear my story, what had happened, they were coming from far and away because they wanted to hear my awakening. And they would just say to me, like, "I have traveled and I have spent my entire life trying to achieve, what you have experienced in that instant. And then we would start doing breath work. And I was living in Queensland, living in South Brisbane at the time, having clients. And then another huge part of my journey unfolded, which was, so that was the January I was awakened. The following February, so a year and a half ago, it was my wife's birthday, and we went to the Gold Coast, Treasure Island on the Gold Coast, for camping with the kids. And it was her birthday morning. We made her a birthday breakfast. We had some cakes, and we went and we got into our bathers. We were going for a swim. And on the way to the pool, the kid says, "Oh, we'll have an ice cream and have a bounce on the jumping pillow." And I said, "Okay." So we went and we had the ice cream, and then we started to jump on the jumping pillow, and there was a few girls there. Then they were doing cartwheels, so I did a cartwheel, and the kids were cheering me on, and we were just having the most beautiful morning. And then I did a forward flip, because the kids are used to me doing flips and being super crazy. I'm super fun, and I'm super in touch with that inner child, and I have so much joy and so much fun and so much laughter every day. And this was completely normal. And then one of the kids said to me, "Mummy, can you do a backflip like you do into the swimming pool?" And I said, "Sure, I'll give it a try." So I jumped and I went up and I landed right on the crown of my head. And in that instant, again, life changed. So I landed on the crown of my head. I heard this huge crushing sound, this sound of breaking bones. And I seen this huge golden flash. And within a second, they had the jumping pillow cleared, because everybody around obviously seen it and they heard it, and they knew in that second how serious it was. And Crystal, she was over beside me, and she had her two hands on either side of my head, and she said, "Baby, don't move." And I said, "Babe, I think I'm hurt. You might need to get an ambulance." And she says, "They're calling the ambulance right now." So this was 10 a.m. on this morning. And the pain, I can't liken to anything I've ever experienced, the pain, the degree of pain. And then I said to Crystal, "Baby, I need to breathe. I need to breathe. This pain is horrendous. I don't know what to do with this pain." This pain. Again, I think I just was maybe in a state of shock or something in that second. And then again, the entire energy changed. And from around me, the energy went golden, and my spirit team were there, and my granny was there, and my auntie was there, and my brother was there, and they all stood around me. And then behind them was my soul family, and behind them were all of these spirits and souls, and behind them was all of these guardians. I was completely surrounded. And they said to me, "Kyra, you have been shown and trained everything that you need to survive in this instant. We need you to breathe." And I looked up at Crystal and I said, "Baby, I'm going to leave my body," because I was so used to leaving my body. Now I could do it in an instant. Any minute I went into a meditation, I just left my body and off I went. I said, "Baby, I need to leave my body, for this pain is so extreme. But I'm just going to rise up." I says, "I'm just going to stay here. So consciously I'm with you. If you need me, I'll just come back down in. But for now, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to be up here so that I don't have to feel this." And that's what I did. And every time I left my body, my angels would say to me, "We've got you. You just breathe. You just breathe." And that's all they said. And I could see them around me, and they were all holding each other's shoulders. And everyone had their arms on the next one's shoulders, and they were just creating this huge, big energetic barrier around me as I lay there. So I lay on that jumping pillow for 2 hours before the ambulance came. So it was 2 hours. So that took me to midday before the ambulance came. And they got me into the ambulance, and then the hospital actually was 6 minutes around the corner. So 6 minutes I arrived into emergency, and they put me onto a bed, and that was it. No one came to me. No one came. 7 hours. 7 hours with an absolutely crushed neck. I lay on that hospital bed. And now and again, when I would hear nurses talking, it would bring my consciousness back to my body so that I came back into my body. And the minute I came back into my body, the pain was horrendous. I couldn't stay. And I would yell out in that minute for someone to help me, for someone to help. Can you please help? And I just remember lying on that bed, looking at that ceiling, saying, can someone please help? Can someone please help? Can someone please help? And I couldn't yell, I couldn't cry, I couldn't do anything. It was just, can someone please help? Can someone please help? And my body's trembling as I tell you this because it still has that effect on my body.
Yeah.
And eventually someone came and they took me for a scan. And even when they lifted me from that bed onto the bed for the scan, they held my neck. Oh my God, I can't describe the pain. I just can't describe the pain. And I remember screaming out and asking them not to touch my neck. I said, my neck is broken. But they didn't know. They had no idea that my neck was as broken as what it was. So when I got back to the room, all alarms went off. They seen the scans. They seen the true situation. Everything went off. Within 10 seconds, my room was full of surgical staff, nurses. The emergency crew were sent in. And then they told me then I broke my neck, and they were going to have to do emergency surgery because the time, it had already been 9 hours from I'd broken my neck, and they had a time frame before they could do nothing else. If they didn't have this surgery now, we were going to miss the opportunity to do it, and there would be nothing that they could do. They wouldn't be fit to save me. So I'm lying on this bed. The minute I went down, I lost all feeling in my arms. I could feel my toes, but I couldn't feel my 2 arms. My 2 arms were completely dead and gone to me. So I'm lying there and they're saying, Kyra, we have to do emergency surgery. We'll have to do this and we'll have to do that, and it's going to be extremely painful. And I just said to them, and I just remember saying, it's okay. My team are here with me and they've taught me how to leave my body. So you do what you need to do, and I'm going to leave my body. And I remember the doctors and the surgeons saying, how are you so calm? We really like it. We don't know how you're this calm. We don't even know how you can be this friendly and this kind. And I just remember saying, thank you. It's okay. Thank you. Okay, you do that. Thank you. And they're saying it's going to be painful. I'm saying, okay, no worries. Thank you. And because I had just this huge knowing that I was going to be okay. I knew I was going to be okay. And they were saying I wasn't going to be okay. And I was saying I would be okay. So they had rang Crystal. This was 7 o'clock, or just after 7 o'clock, she got the call. And they said, your wife's not going to make this surgery. There's no way she's going to live this, survive this. You need to come here now. You need to put your kids in the car, in the jammies, and you need to come and say goodbye to your wife and their mommy. She won't live. Yeah. And I got on the phone to Crystal and I said, do not come to this hospital with those 2 babies. I said, I am fine, darling. I promise you I'm fine. And I will see you in the morning. And I just remember saying to them, listen, I'm fine. And they said, Kyra, if you live, you're going to be a quadriplegic. And I said, okay, but I know I'm going to be fine. I says, I have been brought to you because you're the best. So I'm going to do me and you do you. And I'll see you after that.
You're telling them this. I love this so much.
It was incredible. It was incredible. Like the conversations I had with these surgeons the next day. I said, I'll do me, you do you, and I'll see you in the morning. So that was it. I said, thank you to them. Thank you. And I'll see you soon. And I remember closing my eyes, going into surgery. And the next thing was I woke up. I woke up from surgery and I'm in a private suite. And the nurse is standing there and she says to me, are you okay? And I says, I'm really bursting for a wee. And she's, I'll bring you the bedpan. And I says, no, I don't need a bedpan. Where's the toilet? And she says, no, you can't. You've just broken your neck and you've had emergency surgery. You can't get out of bed. And I says, I have just broken my neck and I have just had emergency surgery and I'm getting out of bed. And she said, okay, because there was no stopping me. Like, and she said, okay, okay. And I got out of that bed and I walked, and it was a huge big private suite. And I walked to the far end of the room and I went to the toilet. And I said to her, and I remember saying to her, where's the sink? I'll wash my hands. She said, you don't need to wash your hands. And I said, no, I'll go to the sink. And the sink was so far in the toilet. I was like,
I just wanted you back in the bed.
and that was
Thank you,
fine.
Sam.
I walked to the sink and I washed my hands. And then I said, where's the window? Because I wasn't really, I was still a bit out of it. And she says, what do you need the window for, Kyra? And I says, I just need to see my God and my angels. And I'm sure she thought, like, this girl's wired. But she walked me to the window. And the minute I looked out the window, they were all there. They were all there. It was incredible. Like, the whole sky was golden. My whole team were there and they were all cheering. And I just said, thank you. And then I turned to the nurse and I said, that'll do. Let's go back to bed.
Oh,
And I had full feeling in my arms. I had full feeling in my legs. And I
yeah.
felt completely incredible. Like,
Wow.
it was incredible. And that was the start of another big journey. That was the start. So they told me then it would be 2 years before I was fully fit and fully healed. They had put in the largest titanium cage that they've ever fitted. I had completely crushed my neck. I damaged the C4 and all the discs. I had completely broken and demolished my C5 and C6. So they had a huge cage. They had to put in, you know, the fake discs, and they had it all screwed together. It was a really big deal, and I had done a top job on breaking. I hadn't just broken, I had absolutely smashed my neck. And the next day it was just like I was in a different place. They were telling me all of these things, but it just wasn't right. And I knew it wasn't right. I knew it wasn't correct because they were looking at me from a place of medicine and how it should have been and how other people who have broken their neck have it and get it and understand it and heal from it. But I just knew that none of that was relevant to me. I had been brought here for a purpose. I had had this experience for a purpose. And this was just another step in my journey that was to show the world what we are capable of doing. And I was out of that hospital in 2 days. So I spent the next night in there. And then they said, you know, how are you feeling? I said, great. This is like, we need you to stay. And I'm like, no, I don't need to stay. I need to go home. I need to be in my energy around my family and my kids. I don't need to be in a hospital. And that was it. I walked out the next day and I went home to heal.
Yeah. Incredible. My gosh. I literally can't believe it was like surgery happened that night and the next day you're actually walking yourself to the toilet and, you know, with full movement. You know, gone through.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it still blows my mind to comprehend, you know, like and I'm really open to this kind of thing, and I know and I believe in miracles, but this is like the next level miracle in a sense, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you had really great surgeons, you know, as well, you know, in the mix, but and you know they obviously needed to hear from you channeling through these messages from spirit so that they knew and had the reassurance that this was going to be a success, you
Yeah.
know,
Well,
because
the
it's
surgeon came in, the top surgeon came in. I spoke to them all the next day. I'm sure I had 15 surgeons and all the different elements of, you know, all the different roles that they played. And from the anesthetist, you know, to them all. And they all come in to talk to me about what and where I went because they have never seen someone so in control and so calm, so aware, but yet so capable of doing the things that I was capable of doing in that environment and in that circumstance. And I told them all, and they were like, you kept saying you were leaving your body when we had to do things. And they're like, we had to put in so many pipes and so many things that you should have been screaming in agony, but you weren't. There wasn't a sound. And I said, but I remember having that conversation with you. And they said, do you remember? And I says, yeah, because you told me you had to put in all of these things and that it was going to make me gag and it's going to be really painful. And I remember saying to you, that's fine. I'll just lift up here and I'll be
yeah.
up here. And when you're finished, I'll come back down. And he said, yes, that's exactly what you said. And I said, yeah, I know. And he said, like, what did you do? And how did you do it? And I told him about everything that would happen. And I could just see their minds going,
what an experience for them. That this is like,
My experience, and I know this now, you know, my experience was as much their experience. And them working on me and them having that conversation with me was activating soul remembrance in them surgeons. That was their soul's journey, was to make me do this so that they would remember what we are capable of and not just be stuck in the mindset of medical this, but that we are capable of so much more than what their training has told them that they are.
oh, that is incredible. Because I think we need to also mention that I don't think you weren't allowed to be sedated, or they were even talking about putting strapping you down so you didn't move. Was that? But none of that happened, so you didn't have to. Yeah,
No,
that's intense.
I was so in control of being able to leave my body when they needed to do anything that I didn't feel anything that they did. I watched it, I seen it, but I didn't feel it.
Because in this situation, they couldn't sedate you, was it? Because of
Correct.
there would have been side effects. Yeah, so you literally couldn't be sedated.
And that was the biggest thing, was that what they were concerned about was putting all of these pipes in my throat. You know, they should have been able to sedate me, but they couldn't. For my injury, they couldn't. They had to do it with me wide awake. And
wow.
yeah, no, I didn't feel that.
Yeah.
Just
And I just love, like, you know, I'm just thinking straight away, like, to, you know, soul family on the other side, you know, signing the contract, you know, and we're going, okay, I'm going to break my neck really, really bad, like pathetic, like incredible, to the point where you're just going to go, this is not even going to happen. We're going to have to ring your wife and tell her to come in because we're not going to be able to fix it. And then for them to have that experience with you, and then for, like, as you say, the soul remembrance. And like, I'm thinking now, like with Crystal, your wife, like she like being in your presence and your children, like they too, as you awaken, your children and Crystal are going to awaken at very similar levels, just being in your aura now. Yeah.
incredible. Like the changes my family have had from my awakening, and even this broken neck. Like, so I broke my neck. I went home. Then we went home to Tanamera, and I started to heal. And I would lie in the bed, and the Palladian emissaries of light, which is now where I know I come from and who I volunteered from for this mission. They come into my room, and my mummy flew over from Ireland and spent a month there, and she would come up the stairs and she would hear me healing. And to her it sounded like hard or tough or sore or painful, but that was me. They would step into my bedroom, they would wrap me up in this big healing chamber, and they would knit and sew my neck back together using frequency, energy, healing. And in 10 weeks, so they told me my hard solid neck brace was between 3 and 4 months, and then the soft neck brace then would be another few months, and then it would be really gentle movement, exercise, physio, and all the rest. 10 weeks I had everything off, and I was moving and I was walking, and actually, don't tell anybody, but I was outside playing soccer with the kids, and I was and I was running around, and like I was just like, I had just moved through this healing of my neck. Now, don't get me wrong, I was in pain, I was healing, and when even after these healing experiences, I still had to sit in the pain, and there was tears, and there was moving through. Like I had lived my life, Anne-Marie, 37 years with a big black hole in my heart of pain. And for 27 of those years, all I wanted to do was die. I spent 27 years of my life, the first 27, before I came to Australia, I met Crystal. 27 years I spent in Ireland. Every day I just wanted to die. But I knew I couldn't.
Yeah.
I knew even in all the pain that I was in, if I just got through it another day, something more was coming. There was something more. I was here for something more, and I didn't understand what. I had no idea, but I knew in my soul there was something more. And finally, when I left Ireland and came to Australia, and I met Crystal, and I had a beautiful time, and I started to create, and I started to live. And I started to do the things that I never ever thought I was possible of. Like even just holding down a job, and just the things that people take for granted that they're able to do. Just to wake up in the morning and not hate yourself every time you walk past a mirror, or not just be so disappointed in yourself that you were so different, be so full of shame that you can't do it the same as everyone else, that you can't push all of those feelings under the carpet and just ignore them and get on with your life like everyone else can. Like that all came back to me. I viewed myself as a weak link because I couldn't do what everybody else was capable of doing.
Yeah.
You know, when I had the kids, we had such a beautiful life, and we have so much joy in our home and so much happiness in our home. And yet I was still taking antidepressants, the heaviest of antidepressants that I was taking from 17 to 37. 20 years I took them every single day, and if I missed them, I knew about it. Anti-anxiety tablets. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't take the kids to a kids' party on my own. I couldn't take them out for the day on my own. I just couldn't do it. It was too much for me. But that stopped when Ryan came to me just after my awakening, and one day I was meditating, and he went to around my house. In my vision, he went through my house and he gathered up every medication that was in my house and he put them in a rubbish bag. He says,
Wow.
Kyra, they're completely blocking the truth of who you are. They're blocking your connection. You have been healed and you will not suffer. Put them in the bin. And I got up from that meditation. I walked through my house and I threw everything that came in a box, a prescription, a tablet, a painkiller, anything. And I put them in the bin. After 20 years of taking that tablet every day, I sweated pure yellow. That red, that tablet that I was taking was a red tablet. And for 6 weeks after I threw them in the bin, every time I rubbed my skin, my sweat was red. My towels were red after the shower. I was just had this red poison coming out through every pore in my body.
From the detoxing of it.
Detox, the antidepressant,
Red.
red. Every towel, every time I got out of bed, I had to take off my bed sheet. It was red. My pillow,
Wow.
red.
What chemical was that, you
I
wonder?
don't know, but it wasn't good.
Whoa.
But
I
that
was
was
going,
20 years. Like, that was 20 years.
I believe it because actually that's where our stories are similar. I was on antidepressants for 16, not as long as you, but for 16 years. So we're quite similar in that.
Yeah.
Wow. That's it. And see, I was going to ask you, how do you feel after the awakening? Because like how your thoughts and your feelings and emotions, and you sort of answered that. It's like, yeah,
Marie,
but you can like, yeah,
incredible.
yeah,
Absolutely incredible. I I am happy to tell anybody that I lived 37 years in hell, and for the last 2.5 years, I am living in heaven every single day. And I know now, and I understand now, that heaven is not a place where we go when we die. Heaven is a frequency that we live while on earth. So
yeah,
it's a frequency that comes from your mindset, your perspective, your actions, your thoughts, your behaviors all create your vibration, and that is your frequency where you live. And you can live in hell or you can live in heaven. And I live in heaven every day. I have so much love. I have always had the biggest heart, and that's why I felt all the pain, because I
yeah,
had this heart and I knew that life on earth was for love. We came here
yeah,
to love. And for me to move back to just being in that love, all I see around me is love. And I know the world still is in pain, but my world is love. My world is heaven. And I walk outside, I wake up every morning, and my face just goes into this huge smile, and I just go, yes, another day, another day.
yeah.
And you know, I put up a video just last week. So I went back to playing with the kids after breaking my neck, and I healed so well. And then the kids, just before I broke my neck, we were going back to Ireland. And the kids just really had a longing for more family and more connection. And we had talked about spending a year in Ireland, and we had planned to go back to Ireland and see how that went. So I broke my neck in February. That was March, April. It must have been May. We arrived in Ireland,
Wow.
spent 4 months in Ireland, and and the healing that I had in Ireland was absolutely incredible. But I think if I hadn't even have broken my neck, maybe I wouldn't have gone back to Ireland. But I needed to go to Ireland because I had this vision in my head that now that I was healed, we could go back to Ireland and we would live in Ireland and the kids would have family and we would have that family around us. But I actually had to go to Ireland to experience life as I had known it, if you like. And as much as I have so much love in my heart for Ireland, I couldn't live in Ireland. My journey wasn't for Ireland. My journey here was to go to Australia back. I think I've lived so many souls and so many lifetimes and have such a connection to Australia that my journey was to step into my journey without a reliance, if you like, on the past or what I thought it was supposed to look like, but moving
Mhm.
to an awareness of what I'm actually here to do.
Yeah.
So we had an absolutely beautiful time in Ireland, and then but it wasn't us. It wasn't us. It wasn't my family. And I sat down with Crystal and the kids in my mummy's living room in front of the fire, and I said, "Are we here, or do you want to go home?" And they said, "Mummy, we love it here. We love our cousins. We love our family and our aunties and our uncles, but we want to go home."
Yeah.
And I say, "Okay, let's go home."
Oh, I'm so glad that everybody had that. Yeah. Isn't it interesting though how Ireland was the catalyst, or there was sort of that was the trauma, that was your trauma life. And
Yeah,
it's so fascinating for me, like different places and can activate different parts of us. And then for you to meet Crystal over here and to be able to live over here on this land, it activates a different life for you.
yeah,
Because I'd imagine all the trauma of, like you mentioned, 10 healing 10 inner child or inner versions of you, like those 10 were living in Ireland. So that might have sort of been reactivated even while you were in Ireland, that trauma sort of coming back. But I don't know, I get a feeling that you were there to really show them what's possible. Like, oh, here's my daughter, here's my cousin, my sister, like she's just broken her neck, but here she is, she's here, and if people are like, what the heck? Because honestly, to be honest with you too, this is the other thing. Like, I was living in Brisbane when we like started conversing. We've never met in person, but I feel like I've known you lifetimes. But
yeah,
I just never forget you were wearing this neck brace, and it was like you didn't act like you were had even had an operation. Like you always
yeah,
had that, attitude where you were fine, like it was
yeah,
really cool. It was really cool to witness. But yeah, so that's why I really love sharing your story, because I think people need to actually know what actually did happen and that you did crush it in those 3 or 4 places. Like it was a disaster, to the point where the doctors were saying she's not going to survive this,
yeah,
and to know, and then this, just even to know that our bodies literally are healing machines. But the frequency part, that's the cool part. I think that's the spark of life, isn't it? When you start working with your spirit team like you did, and then them, coming in and being able to stitch it up with frequency. Like
yeah,
that, yeah, the future is frequency, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely.
It is,
Absolutely.
yeah. And
Um,
that's what I love about breath work as well, because breath work gets you into your body, and and into that present moment where you can heal all those inner children, and
yeah.
bring in frequency, bring in your guides, so yeah, maybe do you want to speak into that and what you offer, like for people now? And
The rebirth and breath work is a huge passion of mine. So, and the golden flame and the energy healing and all of that stuff that I do now combines with the rebirth and breath work. And it's incredible. I've just started holding group sessions here, and the last couple of weeks have blowing my mind, for want of a better term. So the breath work, the minute that I enter that space and call in my team, it's like this huge energetic dome goes over the building, and it is completely guarded, and it is just flooded with pure light, source light, creation, our divine source of life just piles into that room. And whoever comes, I can connect with their spirit team, and they bring me through their light codes, their frequency shifts, and I'm doing the energy work on them while they're breathing. And while they're breathing and the energy work is working with them in combination, it just allows them to travel, and they go when they travel, or they activate, or they remember, or whatever it is that they need in that moment happens right there. And I can see it. I can see what looks like empty space around us. I can see that it's not empty. To me, it's this beautiful golden hexagon, millions and millions and millions and millions of hexagons all gathered up. And when I want to, I can play with it. And it's like I'm moving these layers, and I'm moving these dimensions, and I'm moving all these codes, and I'm moving all these lines of energy. And at times I just be sitting playing with it, and I'm creating with my hands in an empty space in front of me, and the energy is just working with me. And that's what I'm doing when I'm with clients in a breathwork session. I'm just working with them, all versions of them, over all dimensions, all realities, all time frames, all possibilities, all consciousness, to give them what they need so that they can take a step closer to the light of remembrance, the truth of who they are, activate the true power and strength in them so that they can come home to the full and complete picture of who they are and what they came here to do.
Love it. So when they walk in, I'm just getting a visual, when they walk in the door, they're one version, and when they walk out, they're...
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And you do, this is in a group scenario as well.
Yeah, so I do one-on-ones, but I love doing group work because I love being able then to connect people from community together. And that's a great opportunity because they come in and they heal together, and they connect with each other, and they build friendships. And again, that's community. That's us coming home to having a community and connecting with those around us, rather than going through these journeys feeling alone. A really big part of it is connecting with people who are doing it alongside of you. So we have that support network.
Yes.
Like I left Ireland and we came home, and we'd sold everything before we left. Everything. We sold our cars, we sold everything. I stepped off that plane in Brisbane, and Crystal and I looked at each other and we went, okay, let's start again. And
Yeah.
I had to start again. I had to go and buy a car, and then I bought a wee caravan. I said, let's travel. We're completely free. We have complete freedom. We answer to no one. We have no schedules. We have no routines. We are as free as souls.
I love that so much.
Let's just do it. Let's just enjoy it. We never ask any questions. We just completely step into the moment that we find ourselves. And I love Crystal for that, because man, we step into this journey together. Like what we have been through in 13 years of our relationship is lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes in other people's words, and we've done it in 13 years, and every day every day is changing, and every day we're growing, and every day we're evolving, and every day there's new things happening and new events and new opportunities, and we never question. We're just like, okay, let's go, that's what we're doing today. Okay, let's go, that's what we're doing today. Okay, let's go, that's what we're doing today. And it's such an powerful, there's so much power in that freedom. There's
knowing that you're guided from your higher self, and everything, the all knowing that's directing the show. Hey, but because we've been in this, I hate to use the word matrix because it's overused a bit, but because we're in sort of a program society at 9 to 5, not necessarily,
Yeah.
Not all jobs are 9 to 5, but it's just that not listening to the intuition. And so, it takes a while to start listening to intuition and trusting and knowing that doing nothing sometimes is actually doing a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the hard part, isn't it? And I love that Crystal's actually on the same path as you, because it can be really tricky when one person is just like going with their intuition and the other person wants to be structured and likes the control. So it's really good that both of you have been able to surrender together.
Yeah.
Was Crystal always like that? Intuitive and flowy like you as well?
Very much when she was younger, and then again turned it off. So I think
Yeah.
we completely attracted each other because we were coming from the same places,
Yeah.
you know. But when I awakened, then she started her journey. And the two of us stepped into it completely blind to it. Tilly was in school. She was in prep at school. We were working jobs. We were doing what people do. And we had no awareness of it. Watching the Netflix, drinking, taking the painkillers, trusting in everything that the doctor told us was going to help us. Completely null, void, and disconnected to the earth, the universe, frequency, vibration, intuition, all of those things that are the truth yet. And one of the biggest things I always remember is my team said to me, Kyra, everything that you have been told, that you have been taught, or you have been made to believe, if you want to know the truth, flip it upside down, turn it back to front,
Oh gosh.
because you have been trained and told and made to believe the opposite of everything that is the truth. And I tell that to so many people. Everything you have been trained to believe and programmed to believe, just try doing the opposite of it and see how your life changes.
Wow, and I love, because it's really nice to watch your journey, and because you offer so much hope now, like to be able to see, because I see your posts, and you guys are always smiling, always having fun, and your photos pop because the frequency that you guys are living matches the frequency of the environment, and it's like it is the heaven codes. It's like heaven on earth codes, isn't it? And I can see it. It's so beautiful to witness. I mean, even the photos of the other day, I think Crystal had an event. Oh, sorry, my dog is going off here. But you guys are glowing. It's really obvious to see, and I think that's really nice for people to be able to see what's available, because flipping things on its side, it does take a while to sort of like in your thoughts to flip things on the sides, upside down, and all the rest of it. But it's uncomfortable, isn't it? It's like a caterpillar. So
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to sort of go, well, look at Kyra over here. This is what's available.
Yes.
So it's really nice to know what's available. But I can really see now why your trip to Ireland was so poignant. It was almost like you sold everything here, went to Ireland, and then so you had the reset. And then when you came back, you were able to build from scratch, new energy, new everything.
Yeah.
And because when you came back, your jobs were completely different. They weren't sort of there were different jobs then, weren't they? Because you were
Everything. Everything.
everything.
Absolutely everything. And
Wow.
I made a video, and I don't actually even know when I made the video, but I think when we came back to Australia and I was working with the Indigenous teams as we traveled, I did a lot of work, but we were traveling. So we traveled for 9 or 10 months before we've stopped here. And in that traveling, we were always directed again to where we needed to do that work while being on the road. And we were in Victoria and we were volunteering on a lady's farm. We were just helping her, but she worked very closely with the Indigenous community, and she asked me would I run some ladies' workshops. And I wrote and designed an 8-week ladies workshop for the Indigenous ladies, and I had so much, oh my God, I had so much fun doing it. It was such an honor to do it. But one day I was going home and I had to stop the car because I had this huge vision, and this story was this man, I don't know if it's a Bible story or if it's a folklore or what it is, but we had this richest man. He lost everything. He lost absolutely everything, and they came around to him and they says, you know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And he was just like, it's fine. I trust it's completely fine.
I love
Well,
that.
and because he never questioned, he never doubted, everything tenfold. This, because that was them showing me, Kyra, you feel right now that you have to start with nothing again.
Yes.
It was just like, I have this knowing and I have this trust that my
Yeah.
life is just going to get better and better and better and better and better with what's happening. And the more I surrendered, the
Yeah.
more it came, the more I surrendered and sat back in that trust and that knowing, not even trust, knowing that it was only going to be the most incredible life. A life that was coming to me was something that I couldn't even imagine, because my imagination sat on the limits of society, on the limits of what I had seen and the limits of what I had experienced before. But what was coming was way outside of that. And I just had to trust. And now, even the other day, I'm sitting here and Tilly says to me, we went to a playhouse and they were doing ukulele lessons. And it was a big, you know, those indoor soft play centers. And she said to me, Mummy, you just don't play with us the way that you used to, bonkers. And I was really triggered in that second. And I had just tears came to me. And I had to walk down to the garden and I had all of this realization of the fear to go into that play area with them in case I would fall, in case I would jar, or in case I would hurt my neck.
Yeah.
I had to sit with that, why I had that fear after everything I've been in, why I'm sitting in fear now to play with the kids, rough and tumble and wrestle with them, you know. And why I broke my neck, because before I broke my neck, I had just spent the last year of my life doing the most incredible things. I was living heaven on earth. And then I broke my neck and I was like, I was just getting going. I was just getting going. But I had this realization that the love that I have for life now, every single morning I wake up now, I am so full of love to be alive. And I think that's one of the biggest things that where I sit now is my love and my understanding of the gift of life. And in all the pain and in all the trauma and in all the hurt and in all of everything that we deem to be negative, were the catalysts of me living the best life I could ever have imagined. Like I couldn't have, if I were to write my life, I couldn't have written it as good as what I live now. And everything now, we've settled here. And I had questioned because I love Queensland. And I'm like, why am I not back in Queensland? You know, why am I not back in Queensland? And it was just surrender and just let it, just sit with it. And everything, even in the past 2 weeks, all of these puzzle pieces are coming together. What Crystal and I are doing separately, what we're doing together, and the kids and the people that we're meeting and the opportunities that are coming, it's just one thing building on top of the next. And like, if that doesn't show people who are in pain that life can change, like I am the very epitome of life can change.
Yeah.
And be at the worst of the worst of the worst and thinking, how are you going to do it? And all of a sudden, life can change.
I'm so happy for you because, you know, like 37 years of, you know, dealing with a way of life and then, okay, then the extremity of that big challenge of, you know, the accident, and to come out of all of that is just so incredible. And to see you guys so happy. It's a reminder now too to dream big, isn't it? Like really, humanity can't dream big enough, you know, and it's to get outside that the plateau, that ceiling that we've got, you know, it's not available. It's like, no, there's more, just keep going, just keep going. Like there's so
Yeah.
much. And do you offer Zoom, like online courses as well, or
Oh
in
yeah,
or
absolutely.
oh, fantastic. Because I think that'd be really good for people, you know, interstate, internationally. Yeah. So I'll
Yeah.
pop that in the Rose Code community so that they know, because we've got some followers here in Perth, you know, it'd be so good to for them to connect. Because the other thing is I know how you're saying an accident like that can leave a lot of memory in the DNA and it can be stored. However, breath work can really release all of that from the body, and over time. So you're not getting that trauma response to certain things that happened throughout your life. So yeah, I'm so excited for people to connect with you. How can they connect with you? What's the best way to connect? Is
Find
it-
socials that I'm actually really poor on socials because I just am. There's no other reason. But you can find me. Find me at Breath Mind Mastery is the name of our business. It's pretty new, a new page, and it's pretty new on there. But you will find us, connect with us. Facebook just as myself, Instagram as myself, Kyra Brown. Reach out, call, email, send a message, send it matter, it'll come. But we're so
Just 'cause
well.
you
A lot of we do. You know, we've been asked now to go to people holding events, which is really exciting because we're not contained to one space. And I think the bravery that Crystal and I both share is that we're never tied down. And you know, she's traveling all over the place for her shows and the work that she does. I've been asked to go to a few different private events even, and do what I do there. And then we do online sessions. So there's always opportunity, there's always availability. And we just work around the people that come to us because we know that those who come are those who are meant to come. And those are the people that we're meant to work with. However they need it to look will be how it looks.
Yeah, because Love Fest is coming up next for you, is it, as with the
Yeah, that's
children?
really so I love I do a lot of work with kids, having my own kids, you know, Tilly, back when we were in Queensland and Tilly was watching what I was doing with women's groups. She was in school at the time and she was in prep, and she came home to me and she said, Mummy, there are a lot of kids in my class who live in cloudy worlds. She says they don't have sunshine worlds like I do. And she says, do you think you could teach them what you teach me? And I said, yeah. I says, do you want to design a kids workshop? And she said, yeah. And I said, let's do it. And in that minute, kids workshops were born, kids ceremonies were born. And Tilly and Eli and I sat together and we designed them. And um, and I love it because I see what I teach my kids and what they remember and what they're able to teach me. In that environment, all we have to do as the adult is set up the environment for the kids to shine because they already know and they're here to teach us and they're here to help us remember. But as the adult, to just hold that space for them and allow their lights to shine just absolutely brightens my life. Like my heart expands just talking about it. And so Love Fest was coming up and I was talking to a lady and she said, like, Kyra, you've so much to share. Would you do a kids workshop? And I said, absolutely. I would love to. And I love Love Fest. So I was really pumped and really excited and felt really honored to be able to facilitate. And then just before I got on to you this morning, the host of it, the lady who runs the entire thing rang me up and she says, Kyra, I'm watching what you do. Would you do us the honor of hosting the Rebirthing Breathwork workshop for the adults? And I says, yeah, I would love to. And the kids workshop and the adults breath work for, I think she said between like 40, maybe 40 adults breathing, which is just incredible. Like it's just that to me, just absolute honor. And I'm really, really excited for it. I know
It's
it'll
so
be an incredible event. The location, the energy, the facilitators, the music, all of it. It's going to be incredible. Yeah.
it's going to be so good, and I love that you get to do the adults, have a session with the adults and the children because it means that they can go home and share the experience as well, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm with you there. I really believe that our kids are here to teach us, and actually they're the source of inspiration. So I love that you and Tully got to do that program together. I feel like it's sort of like a legacy that you can like pass on to so many other kids. And did it take a while to come up with that program or together?
No. Tilly and I
No.
sat there within an hour. We birthed this kids program, kids workshop, kids ceremonies, and on the weekend we were doing it. And Tilly now and Eli both, like I just watch them now when they go to kids' birthday parties or they're playing at the park. The knowledge that they're sharing with kids that they meet is incredible. Like they are little healers. They're 9 and 7, and they are healing this world. They are helping heal this world.
And I just can't wait for this ripple effect, because I feel like this is the kind of stuff we want to get back into schools, like, I mean, it might not, I'm just thinking it might not happen for a little while, but if we can even get it into the external schools for now, and just have it spill in that way, it's all, we're all interconnected and it all ricochets. It's a remembrance, isn't it? And I think, Joe, thank you so much. Honestly, like I could talk to you forever, and I'm just so happy that we got to speak, and I'm so glad that we can share your story, because like you are a massive pillar of light and source of inspiration. And I just want to remind people, so it's breath mind mastery.
Yeah.
breathmindmastery.com.au with the www at the beginning. And Kyra Brown, thank you so much. Thank you for joining me. I loved it. It's such a treat. Oh, I don't want to go, but we have to. We'll sign up here and we'll chat again. We'll chat again in the future. Yeah.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to everything that's to come. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting times ahead.
It is.
Yeah, exciting times. Thank you. I'm just so glad that you're here to tell the tale and share
Me
all
too.
this.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
There is a God. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Oops. Stop recording. Oh.